Hello and welcome back to Humans and Society. This video focuses on a topic, Sikolohiyang Pilipino, under the subject, Disciplines and Ideas in the Social Sciences. Sikolohiyang Pilipino is the indigenous psychology of the Philippines. It is psychology that is rooted on the experience, ideas, and cultural orientation of Filipinos. It allows professionals to see the world from the perspective of the people they serve. As of 2010, it has been used by foreign psychologists as a tool in psychology. UNICEF has adopted Sikolohiyang Pilipino as a program framework in reaching out to children who are victims of trauma. Sikolohiyang Pilipino has reshaped worldview in community advocacy. Let us look at the historical context of Sikolohiyang Pilipino. In the 1960s, research on Filipino values was initiated by the Institute of Philippine Culture in Ateneo de Manila University. This was a time when modernization theory was popular. An examination's underlying theme is to understand the Filipino psyche to find the key to its economic development. The researchers utilized foreign theories to study Philippine culture, and they were criticized by other scholars with nationalistic orientation. The result of the research was called Four Readings on Philippine Values, published in 1968 by the Institute of Philippine Culture. It provided insights on Philippine culture and discussed four Philippine values. The researchers were Social Acceptance by Frank Lynch, Reciprocity in Lowland Philippines by Mary Hallsteiner, The Manileños Mainspring by Jaime Bulatao, and Filipino Entrepreneurship and Manufacturing by John Carroll. We will look at each research in depth. The first research was titled Social Acceptance by Frank Lynch. Frank Lynch was an American Jesuit anthropologist. He noted the Filipinos value social acceptance, which is manifested when one is not rejected or criticized by others. Hiya, or shame, and amor propio, or self-esteem, are qualities that make a person agreeable to the community and regarded as a good person. Another result of this research is that Filipinos value smooth interpersonal relations. Pakikisama is yielding to the will of others. Euphemism states a disagreeable truth or opinion as nicely as possible. And a go-between or middle person is used to mediate for two parties for an uncomfortable request, complaint, or decision. These are some strategies that Filipinos use to maintain smooth interpersonal relations with each other. The second Filipino value studied was reciprocity. Mary Hallsteiner is a half-American activist social scientist who studied reciprocity. She defined reciprocity as a code of conduct wherein for every service accepted, there should be a return. This applies whether the service was intentionally sought or freely given. The return is based on the comparative positions of those involved and the sort of exchange being considered. There were three types of reciprocity. Contractual reciprocity, wherein there is an equal exchange settled ahead of time. A quasi-contractual reciprocity, where things exchanged are different but equal in worth. And utang na loob, an unequal settlement with no previous deal on the nature or amount of the return. Manileños Mainsprings is the third research in the book. Father Jaime Bulatao is a professor and clinical psychologist who theorized on the values of those living in Manila. He found four of these values. The first is emotional closeness and security of family, manifested in personal sacrifice for the sake of the family, strictness of parents, and nurturing skills of women. The second is authority value, manifested in the exertion of parental authority, respect and obedience to authority figures, abiding by traditions, asking authority figures for help and favors, and always considering what the neighbors would say. The third value is economic and social betterment, expressed through striving to obtain economic capability, studying and working hard, and aiming for social recognition. And the fourth value is patience, suffering, and endurance, associated more with women than with men. The fourth reading is called Filipino Entrepreneurship in Manufacturing. Father John Carroll is an American Jesuit social scientist and political activist who conducted a study about the background of 92 people whom he considered important in leading the country to industrialization through entrepreneurship. He was particularly interested in the social origins of these people and where they got their capital, technology, and management skills. He came up with the following observations. Filipino entrepreneurs were often foreign educated. They had previous experience as independent businessmen. They were associated with certain regions, particularly Manila, Rizal, Bulacan, and Pampanga, and they were associated with certain religions, like Catholicism. Before we continue, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell for notifications. Comment below for topics you would like to be discussed in future videos. Sikolohiyang Pilipino was developed shortly after the publishing of the book on the Filipino values. Sikolohiyang Pilipino was a subject offered in the Department of Psychology in University of the Philippines, Diliman, in the 1970s. The key concepts of Sikolohiyang Pilipino are kapwa, pakikipagkapwa, and the 8 levels of social interactions. Virgilio G. Enriquez is considered the father of Sikolohiyang Pilipino. He taught psychology at the University of the Philippines in 1963, using English as the medium of instruction. He shifted to Filipino in 1965 as an act of nationalism. He took his master's and doctoral degree in social psychology at Northwestern University in the United States. When he returned to the Philippines, he began advocating for a way of doing psychology that is within the structure of the Filipino personality. He taught in various universities in the Philippines and abroad, authored and edited many publications in the academe, founded and presided over several professional organizations, and received numerous awards for his contributions to the field. The most important concept in Sikolohiyang Pilipino is kapwa. Kapwa have some common English counterparts, like both, fellow being, and other. In Sikolohiyang Pilipino, kapwa refers to a unity of the self with others, and recognizes a shared identity. Kapwa means extension of the self, when we see ourselves in others, or we see something in common with others. Ibang tao and hindi ibang tao are both manifestations of kapwa. With ibang tao are those who are not close with us, and hindi ibang tao are people we consider close. The concept of kapwa is manifested as an action through pakikipagkapwa and pakikisama. We use pakikipagkapwa for people we consider hindi ibang tao, and pakikisama for people we consider as ibang tao. Pakikipagkapwa is a Filipino virtue. It is both a conviction and a value. It means accepting and dealing with the other person as an equal. Pakikisama is merely a form of conformity. When someone is walang pakisama, it means that the person does not know how to get along with others. When someone is considered walang kapwa-tao, he or she is considered hopeless and the worst kind of person, who is only thinking about themselves. According to Sikolohiyang Pilipino, there are 8 levels of social interaction. The first level, or the lowest level, is called pakikitungo, which is merely transaction or civility. The second level is pakikisalamuha, or interaction. The third level is pakikilahok, or participating. The fourth level is pakikibagay, or conformity. The fifth level is pakikisama, or getting along well with others. The sixth level is pakikipagpalagayang loob, or acceptance and understanding of other people. The sixth level is pakikisangkot, or involvement in the affairs of others. And level 8, or the highest level, is pakikiisa, or unity with others. Here is a list of some unique Filipino beliefs and behaviors. Anting-anting and agimat are lucky charms and amulets. Manghuhula is a fortune teller. Kulam and barang are both types of witchcraft. Maligno are mythical creatures like the kapre, nuno, tikbalang, manananggal, and tiyanak. Pamahiin are superstitions for every type of event that happens in one's life. Amok is being overwhelmed with anger and adrenaline that a violent rage happens. Bangungot means never waking up from a bad dream. Amor proprio is love of self. Gulong ng palad is the circle of life and luck, which means sometimes you're lucky and sometimes you're not. Crab mentality is the behavior of pulling down people who are above us. Padrino system is asking powerful people for favors. Bahala na is leaving things up to fate. Bayanihan, being a hero to others, as manifested by a group of people collectively helping others without expecting anything in return. Utang na loob, or debt of gratitude. Filipino time is the belief that time is cyclical, so it doesn't matter when something is done, as long as it is done. And Filipino pride, or finding joy in the accomplishment of others with Filipino heritage, especially on a worldwide scale. The Pambansang Samahan sa Sikolohiyang Pilipino is an organization of Filipino psychologists. Enriquez led the founding of the Pambansang Samahan sa Sikolohiyang Pilipino as a professional organization to address the need of institutionalizing the practice of Sikolohiyang Pilipino. He continued to lead the movement and staged the 1975 convention called the First National Conference on Filipino Psychology. Annual conferences that followed were held in different regions of the country to offer wider participation. A national journal was launched in 1972 with him as the editor and continued up to his death in 1994. The Diwa e-journal was set up in 2013 to relaunch the journal and republish significant studies. The strengths and weaknesses of Sikolohiyang Pilipino. The legacy of Sikolohiyang Pilipino was the creation of the Philippine Psychology Research House, later renamed the Philippine Psychology Research and Training House, and again, to Akademya ng Sikolohiyang Pilipino. It serves as a venue for research activities and library of publications of Sikolohiyang Pilipino scholars. It is also a lodging house for visiting researchers and foreign scholars, and training center for homegrown scholars. Sikolohiyang Pilipino supports and nurtures the creation of new knowledge about Filipino psychology. It motivates scholars to voice their opinions, create their own ideas, and listen to each other, with the goal of liberating the Filipino psyche from colonial mentality. Sikolohiyang Pilipino is also used outside the country, particularly by UNICEF, as a program framework that puts value in culture, indigenous identity, and the environment to help explain or define behavior that is peculiar to a certain country or race. Since Sikolohiyang Pilipino has achieved the status of movement, supporters are expected to follow its ideals of nationalism, Filipino as the medium of instruction, indigenous methods of research, and Filipino worldviews as the center of study. Non-adherence would entail that one is in favor of Western or colonial traditions. It is seen as promoting divisiveness rather than unity among Filipino scholars and psychologists. In spite of these, Sikolohiyang Pilipino is still widely taught and used in institutions in the Philippines and abroad. It is a groundbreaking work with invaluable contributions in Filipino, Asian, and cross-cultural psychology that provides an alternative view to Western psychology and promotes national consciousness. The ideas discussed in this video are based on the content standards of the Department of Education. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next lesson.